Great. In this video, we will be looking at question 2 of paper 2 of 2019, the NSC exam paper. And given to us is a frequency table, and the following information is also supplied to us. A survey was conducted among 100 people about the amount that they paid on a monthly basis for their cell phone contracts. So the person carrying out the survey calculated the estimated mean to be 309 Rand per month. Unfortunately, he lost some of the data thereafter. The partial results of the survey are shown in the frequency table below. Now, when they say partial data, they've already alluded to the fact that some of the data was lost. So that gives us unknowns. And the unknowns here is A and B. So obviously, at the later stage, we would have to determine those. So let's have a look at the first question. How many people paid 200 Rand or less on their monthly cell phone contracts? So you would now have to find that interval. And that is, there's 200. But keep in mind that 100 is less than 200. And anything less than 100 is also less than 200. So that would mean that 2.1 would be 12 plus 7. So that would be 19. So that's your first answer. That's 1 mark there. You get 1 mark for that. So let's have a look at 2.2, which is a bit more complex. Use the information above to show that A is equal to 24 and B is equal to 16. So keep in mind that the sum of all these values should give us 100, because remember, they have conducted a survey among 100 people. So let's have a look at how we simplify that. So we have done number 2.1. 2.1 was 12 plus 7, that was 19. Okay, so now we need to go and look at how we find 2.2. Now 2.2 is going to require some calculation. We also look at it as 5 marks. So you need to know that your marks are not necessarily an indication of how long you should calculate, but keep in mind 5 marks won't be given for 2 or 3 steps. So there's some work that needs to be done. So let's set up the values quickly. So in order for us to understand A, we take the values that we have, and this should give us a 100. So first thing we would like to do is let's see what the value of A should be. So if I make A the subject of the formula, then my answer for A would then be 40 minus B. So wherever A is, I will then substitute that with 40 minus B. So keep in mind that 100 is the sum of all your values. Okay, that's very important. So now we also know that 309 Rand per month was the estimated mean. Now that's important information given to us here. The estimated mean is 309 Rand. So how do we calculate the mean? It's the sum frequencies times X divided by N, and that gives us our mean. Okay, so the frequencies are given to us in the table. So there's our frequencies. Okay, and then obviously X is the number that we multiply in that range. So you're going to get your mean of 100 and 200, and that's going to be 150, and your mean of 0 to 100, that's going to be 50, and you multiply that with your frequency. That gives us 309 at the end of the day. Okay, so let's simplify. So if we look at our first interval, it is 0 to 100. So the average mean there would then be 50. So that will be 50 times 7. And then I add the next one. The mean of 100 and 200 is 300. So that's 150 times 12. And then 200 and 300 is 500. So that will be 250 times. Now keep in mind, this is A. But we know what the value for A is. The value for A is 40 minus B. So this is then substituted with 40 minus B, 2 brackets, plus, the next one is then 300, so it's 350 times 35. And then we add the next one, which is then 400 plus 500 gives us 900, is 450 times B. And then last one is then 550 times 6. So now I have all my values. So when I multiply all that, then I would have been left with 550 times 70, that's going to give me 350, plus 1,800, plus 10,000 minus 250 B plus 12,250 plus 450 B plus 3,300, and that's equal to 30,900. Okay. So now the next thing, when I simplify this, the next step will then be 200B equals to 3,200. Now if you do all your calculations correctly, you will get to that. Therefore, B is equal to 16 and A is equal to 24. Okay. So to get B, obviously you're going to divide with 200 both sides, you're going to get 16, and obviously if you have 16 you're going to put it in there, and then A is obviously, keep in mind that A was equal to 40 minus B, and because B is 16, A is there for 24, right? So now you have your A value and your B value. So you now have completed, and you will now see that A is then 24 and then B is 16. And if you add that up, you're going to get to 100. Always make sure to add it up, because if you don't add it up and you assume it's correct and you count, you see it's not correct, and obviously you've made a mistake. Right, but nevertheless, they have given us the answers there, so we've proven it. And then your mark allocation will obviously be, that's going to be 1 mark there, okay? That's going to be 1 mark there, right? And then obviously this will also be a mark there, and simplifying there will be a mark there as well, and obviously that's also going to be a mark there. You're not going to get a mark for B and A, because these were given in the question. Want us to identify the modal class, and we know by definition that the mode is the one that has the highest frequency, and therefore that will obviously be between 300 and 400, because the frequency there is at 35. Okay, the next question I want us to draw a GIF on a grid provided in the answer book, and then we need to use the cumulative frequency to represent the data. So now, the thing about your GIF that you need to understand is that you are using an accumulation of the frequencies that you have in your data set. So you will start with your grounding point. So I'm first going to show you how to set up your coordinates, and then I'll show you what your GIF should look like. So for 2.4, your grounding point will obviously be 0 and 0, okay, and then the next one will be at 107. At 200 is an accumulation of 7 and 12, that's 19. At 300 it's going to be an accumulation, so that's going to be 7 plus 19. So at 300 is going to be the sum of the two, and that's going to be 43. At 400 is going to be 78. At 500 is going to be, so at 500 is going to be 78 plus 16, that gives us 94, and at 600 is the total, which is 100. So these are the coordinates that you will now plot on your GIF to give you your smooth curve. So let's have a look at how your GIF should look like. Okay, so now we have our GIF here, and if you have now constructed your points correctly, this will then be 0 and 0. And that's 100, and you see there's 10, and we had the point 107, and so at this point there 107 will be there, and the next coordinate will be 219, so just below 20, there's 219, and then if you can see 343, so 300 is there, and there's 40, and this is just above 40, and then you can continue, there's 500, 500 is at 94, it is just above 90 there, and then 600 will then be at 100, and then your mark allocation for this will then be 1 mark for your grounded point, 1 mark for 60 to 100, 1 mark for cumulative frequency for your y coordinates, and then obviously if you have a smooth curve, you also get a mark for that. So it's important you do draw a smooth curve, because you get a mark for your smooth curve as well. Right? So let's have a look at our next question. So the next question is to determine how many people pay more than 420 Rand per month for their cell phone contracts. Now this answer you are going to get from your GIF. So let's have a look at our GIF. So there's 400, and 420 would be there, and if you move up, and that gives us about 84 more or less. Okay, so 84 more or less. So 84, 82, there's a deviation of 2. So 84 will be accepted, 82 will also be accepted. So you then take that from the total number of people. So the total number of people was 100, so 100 minus 82, that gives you about 16 to 20 people.